I'm counting that. This thing runs. Sort of. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears and the pathway of impoverished pickups. We are here with my latest acquisition. This is a 1985 Toyota pickup. This is a legendary little truck, and I got it for just $44. And in this video, we're going to find out if I scored a diamond in the rough or if I'm about to polish another turd. Before we drag this thing in the garage, I want to share the story behind it. So about a year and a half ago, my Uncle Doug passed away, and his daughter, my cousin, left the rest of the family to sort out all of his possessions. She just didn't have the capacity to sort out what to do with 14 trucks. So she left it up to us, and among his possessions was this little pickup. You see the two Dodge trucks behind me, also the S10 that you also really should know about. Go check out those videos if you don't. This Toyota pickup was among them, but there was just a problem. We couldn't find any paperwork. We had no documentation that he owned it, so we decided it was just going to sit until we got to it. A year and a half later, we actually found the title, and it did, in fact, at one point belong to Craig, but Craig sold it to Doug. Doug just never completed the transfer. So after talking with the family, we decided that I could make it mine. I could bring it on this channel, and we can... Jesus! No! 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 The dog should settle down. He can't see me anymore. So after talking with the family, we decided that I could just put my name on this title and make it mine. I went down to AAA to sort out the registration, and it turns out this was in non-op status, making the total cost of ownership for this truck just $44. And now that this truck is mine, we're going to get to work on it together. And in this series, we're going to do a cheap truck challenge. I want to get this thing running and driving and return to service for as cheap as reasonably possible. Now, I'm not going to cut corners. I'm not going to do anything sketchy. I'm not going to do anything deceptive. But I'm also not going to go through the level of effort that I went through on the S10. I'm not underwater on that project, but I'm also not going to make any profit. But I'm also not looking to rip anyone off. So once I'm done with this truck, I want to find someone to buy it for a reasonable price, but still a profit, because I want to give that profit to my cousin. This was her dad's truck. This was one of her dad's possessions, so she deserves something for it. And I'm going to make sure she gets it. Ideally, I'd like to find an enthusiast buyer because I would love to see this thing at Radwood. These are really cool little trucks, and they're, in my opinion, overvalued, which makes them really scarce. So when you see them appreciated as a piece of art, it's a really special feeling. Let's pick up the camera and see what we're in for. It's a lot. Obviously, the first thing you notice is that it's missing the front end. Well, the good news is that the front end is actually in the bed. So we've got the bumper, we've got the grille, we've got the trim pieces. The wheel well plastics might be torn up. I don't know yet. Just kind of looking at it, doesn't look like it's in terrible shape. I might be able to put that back on, but some of these tabs are torn. I might have to replace that. The hood, this is all surface rust. This is not corrosive. This will come right out. The hood is actually new. So underneath the hood is perfectly new. We can spray this. We can color match it with white, and you won't notice a thing. We'll look under the hood further later on. We've got just the right amount of patina for a really cool vintage 80s truck. I mean, if you consider 80s to be vintage, this is right up your alley. We have a bumper that will take a tow ball, though it doesn't have one. This is a tow-rated bumper for up to 3,500 pounds. Whether or not this truck can pull it, well, that's not up to me. And also, our antenna is falling off. I don't know what the hell is going on with that wire there, but that's something that we can figure out. All of this here, all we have to do is reattach things. The frame isn't bent. I'm assuming it has replacement panels on it because there was some damage. From what I understand, this was backed into with one of Doug's big trucks. So there was like a mishap when they were unloading it. It went into this truck and did some damage to the front end, and Doug was fixing that. We have a crack in the windshield. We're missing a windshield wiper, but I haven't found it yet. It may be in there. On the inside is where things get a little bit hairy. And by hairy, I mean really dirty. It's freaking filthy in here. He parked this in Lancaster in the desert and left the window open. And one of the reasons you want to leave the window open is because the extreme heat out there will actually crack your windows. And this truck may have cracked the windshield anyway due to the heat, but that's typically why you leave a window cracked. But when you leave a window open like this is what you have. This is what happens. So we have a whole lot of cleanup to do on the inside. This seat has to go. I'm definitely going to try to source another bench seat. But if we can get past all of the disgust, we have a truck with 210,000 miles, which for a Toyota is just barely broken in. You know, this will go 1,000,000 miles. This is a 22R. We have an aftermarket stereo, but really cool, we've got a proper 5-speed manual. So this is a really, really cool truck. The one thing this truck isn't is 4-wheel drive. If this were a 4-wheel drive, this would be a gold mine. So the interior, I honestly don't think this is going to break the bank. It's going to be a lot of cleanup more than anything else. The big expense is going to be the seat, but other than that, it's really just disgusting. And I can fix disgusting. I don't like fixing disgusting, but I can. So let's take a look under the hood. So I can't see the stamp, but I believe this is a 22R motor. Again, it's really disgusting in here. We can probably give this a pressure wash. Of course, it's going to be a while before we try to start it anyway. So a good hose down will do this some good, as long as we just let it dry. I have a little bit of rodent activity, but I also don't see a lot of droppings, which is really lucky because that means we're not going to be dealing with another Camaro. Oh, we see here, engine 22R, boom. So this is arguably one of the best motors ever made, which gives me a lot of hope that this thing is going to run and drive without very many problems. Now, I do know a little bit about this truck because I was trying to help Doug diagnose a no start issue. So what was happening was that this thing wasn't cranking over. We tried replacing the starter. I tried replacing the ignition switch, and the ignition switch wouldn't... I think I got the wrong ignition switch, though, because it wasn't reaching the column. Now, ignition switches are really simple, so I thought, maybe I'll just try it anyway. Still didn't start. So I thought maybe if I just add a relay and bypass the stock relay to get power to the starter, that it might work. Well, Doug apparently put the relay that I gave him in, but he said it still didn't start. And that's when he ultimately passed away. So that's where we're at with this. We have a very limited knowledge of the issues around this truck, but we're also not completely in the dark. And once we get this in the garage, once we get this cleaned up a little bit, we'll be able to explore that and hopefully get this thing running. So the next step here is obviously we got to drag this thing into the garage. And to do that, I'm going to use my S10 to tow it up into the driveway, and then I'm going to use the winch in the garage to drag this into the garage. Seen me do that before, and I'm going to do it again. Let's get started. Let's take a look around here. You see that big line of webbing and leaves? That is Black Widow. That is all made by Black Widow, Desert Black Widow. And Desert Black Widows don't mess around. You know, City Black Widows, they'll run away from you. But Desert Black Widows, they come after you. Under here, we've got a lot of webbing and sticks. And we've got beetles hanging off of webbing because that's how Black Widows roll. I got a lot of cleanup to do. I'm going to spend some quality time with the vacuum because this is definitely not something that I want to be under at this particular moment. I have a phobia of bugs. So first step is to resolve that phobia, or at least satisfy it. So I want to check in with you on what I've learned about this truck so far. Underneath the hood, the horn is not wired into anything. We are missing the windshield washer tank, but I have the little pump, and the hosing is, well, sort of there, but it's not hooked into anything on the hood. I'm probably missing the little squirter nozzles on the hood. That's because it was a replacement hood. Another thing I noticed here was that our fuse box is broken. I could probably fix that with some scrap plastic and some glue. That's probably what I'll do there. I think replacing the whole thing is not really going to be something I'm interested in doing, especially for a cheap truck. I also noticed that we have the original negative battery terminal down there, but my uncle had put in a battery negative terminal that went to the engine, and he was probably trying to improve the grounding. So I took some spare parts and put this monstrosity together. Once we get the truck running, we can clean this up and make it a little more practical. But for now, it's going to get the job done. Speaking of getting the job done, I threw in the battery. And, well, the reason why the battery is out is because it kind of hangs there pretty terribly. So I didn't want to, push my luck with the battery falling. But while the battery was connected, I had my wife come out and turn the ignition switch. And I confirmed down underneath the truck that I'm not getting enough voltage to actually engage this relay over here. And so once I confirmed that, I wanted to start to look at the wiring between the new ignition switch and our starter signal. And, well, that's what prompted me to pick up the camera, because I found something, well, that was kind of glaringly obvious here. Down here, we have our new ignition switch, which we might be able to return still. This is the old one, and this is a relay for something. And notice these puny little wires coming out of this relay. Well, that actually goes into our black-white ignition switch. So this right here may have been the problem all along. So I'm going to take these butt connectors off and try to repair this. It's going to be a little bit tough, being that we're under the dash. I'm probably going to have to do some disassembly. So once I get this kind of fixed up, I'll check in with you. This is going to be a little bit tricky in these tight quarters. And it's not really a pleasant place to be in the first place, because it's absolutely disgusting in here. It seems that the hazards are on. I thought it was just a turn signal, but now that it's in the garage and I'm behind it, both of these lights are definitely on. Let's see if we can just turn it off. No. No, because that turns on the hazards. What is going on here? So we've got a ghost in the machine. All right. So I have taken out this relay. Well, I haven't fully taken it out. I've just ripped out those wires and reconnected our black-white wire. Let's see if this thing is going to crank over. Let me very quickly disconnect the coil. Oh, it is disconnected already. Good. And we'll give this thing a try. Are you kidding me? No. Alrighty then. So, as you can see, I just had some difficulty removing the key from the cylinder. That's something we're going to have to deal with, along with, obviously, all of the interior stuff. But let's see if this thing will start and run. I mean, I took the key out, so If it's going to do its intermittent bullshit again, this is the time to do it. But how cool. Let's wire this thing back up. All right, fire in the hole. I'm counting that. This thing runs. Sort of. Pretty good. I've got no throttle. Nothing happens when I start the truck. Where is the throttle? I don't even know where the throttle is. All right, let me shut it down, find out where the throttle is, and I'll try again. That's not bad. Oh. So obviously, this is a sign that it's time to take an involuntary break. If this is flammable, which, I mean, it's debatable at this point, it's very much varnish. It's either flammable or it's toxic to breathe. So we're going to let this evaporate, and we're going to figure out why this truck was peeing fuel or varnish out of the charcoal canister. Let's just take a moment to appreciate how far we have come with just really a few minutes of real work. For the cost of a battery, for a ignition switch, and really that's about it. Some things I had laying around the garage, we got this thing running. I mean, it didn't start before. We got it starting and running. So now we just have to do everything else. No big deal. Just needs, everything. Now, as I was waiting for the varnish to dissipate, I put some thought into the problem that we have here. And I think the problems are going to be mainly in the carburetor. There's a few things that lead me in that direction. For one, this plate here had to be opened up with a hammer. It's properly stuck, and you can see it's still like moving pretty slow. Another reason is that the pedal in the floor is doing nothing. It did not affect anything whatsoever. So that could mean that the throttle, the butterfly plate for the throttle, is also stuck. So if I'm pushing on the pedal is moving a cable, but the cable is not moving the plate that opens up to rev up the engine. And then we have our issue with what should be fuel coming out of the overflow of the charcoal canister. That happens when there is a clog in the system return line or in the carburetor in general. So let's take this carburetor off, and we're going to see if we can free it up ourselves, because while my carburetor rebuilder is the best there is, he's also not the cheapest there is. Oof. This is really, really gross. There's even a dead spider at right about there. So this is a good idea. There's multiple dead spiders. There's another one right there. This is really, really gross, and I'm simultaneously horrified and glad I did this. Let's keep going. Well, in addition to the varnish smell of the bad fuel, my neighbor is also pumping their septic tank. So I'm so glad you can't smell what I can smell. Let's take a look at this carburetor and see what we're going to do about this here. So this is the throttle linkage, and it goes through here, and it's supposed to open up these ports here. So this doesn't move at all. These don't move at all. So that could explain all of the problems that we've been having. This is more stuck than I think I can deal with. Okay. Yeah, carburetors are complicated, and there's a lot of things that need to go right. And I just don't have enough experience with carburetors to be comfortable breaking this down, rebuilding it, putting it back together. So I'm probably going to take this to the rebuilder and see what he can do for me. It's unfortunate that I can't just get it to break open like I could the top, but that's how it goes sometimes. So for the past few hours, I've been cleaning up this truck and replacing the fluids. So in the radiator, we have some green antifreeze and some yellow. The yellow mixes with the green. As far as the oil goes, well, I've admittedly also mixed oils as well. So we've got some 1030, we've got about half quart of 1040, and we've got another half quart of break-in oil with high zinc. None of that is going to make this thing run any worse. In fact, it's probably going to be a little bit better given that this has been sitting for a while to have the extra zinc in there to kind of thicken it up a little bit, just to get everything kind of reconditioned as we bring this truck back to life. And while I was cleaning everything up, I noticed the fuse box is broken, which really sucks. But I did notice something very, very cool. You see this panel here? This is the panel that earned this truck the name Captain Crunch. Looking at how this panel attaches to the truck, you see down here, this is actual structure. This is the wheel well, the part that's crushed. This wheel well seems to be only held on with seam sealer and maybe a couple of bolts. So this is all replaceable. So eventually we're going to take this fender off. We're not going to do it right away because I need to be able to move this truck around. I'm still kind of shaking out all of the little bugs on the S10. So once we get the carburetor back, we're going to put it back together as is, and we're not going to touch this for just a little bit while. But I think I can source a new wheel well, reseal it with seam sealer, put a couple bolts in, bolt it into a new core support with the replacement fender that's already on here, and I think all of the damage will be repaired. While I wait for the carburetor, the next thing I want to do here is to replace the brake fluid. And so I'm flushing it out from the back because that will bring out the most volume of bad fluid. And I think that's the best way to do this because that's not going to require re-bleeding. And you see over here, I have a single person bleeder, and that's really just pulling very slowly some amount of fluid through as the bleeder valve is open. And on the bleeder valve, I have one of our directional ratcheting wrenches so that I can flip the direction and tighten it when I'm done. That's hooked up to the compressor, and it is pulling at about 40 to 50 psi consistently. You don't want it too high, but you do want it to pull. You can see if you just watch that bubble there, it's moving very, very slowly. So I could just let it sit there and do that all day, or I put my foot on the brake and kind of help things along. Let's watch our bleeder. You see that bubble moving through as I push down on the pedal. When I lift up from the pedal, you'll also notice that that the bubbles aren't pulling back into the system, and that's because of the compressor. So I'm just going to keep doing that, and periodically you want to go and check the cylinder or the brake master cylinder to make sure it doesn't get low. To ensure that it doesn't run dry, I've got this bottle, but when it starts to run low, just come in here, fill it up, and you just keep doing that until the fluid runs clear. You see, it's still very, very brown. I've still got a long ways to go here. I get the wheels back from the tire shop, and I spent $390 on these brand new tires. But in terms of aesthetic, I mean, look at the tread pattern on these. We've got the white stripe. These are like the archetype of mid-'80s tires. So I don't think I really could have done better, especially at that price point. A lot of people, when they buy period correct, authentic looking tires, they're going to spend a lot of money. So these were, I think, a pretty decent deal for a nice classic looking tire. The blue is obviously going to wash off and reveal white, and it's going to look awesome against this white pickup truck. Well, they put the blue shit on there in order to protect the white. Why don't they just make the blue shit white to protect the white? That way, it would be so much easier to clean up. I mean, this is a nightmare. I have been at this for what? 2 freaking hours now, and look how blue it still is. Jesus. I have been scrubbing it. I used a Brillo pad, a scrub brush. I even used carb cleaner. And the carb cleaner actually did make a significant difference. But I don't want to take off the white either. So I'm just going to go do something else for a while and come back when I'm less pissed off and feeling ultra masochistic. I mean, that's what all of this is, right? This is automotive masochism. We got our carburetor back from Carlos over at BFIC. He is a really, really talented rebuilder. And he turned this around for me, well, in a few days. It really took more time to wait on parts than it took for him to rebuild it. But you can see our throttle plates are opening, and they're opening when they're supposed to. And so we've got the top one up here also opening. So this should work. We're going to slap this thing on here and start this truck up. And we know it's going to run. It ran on a completely ruined carburetor, but we're going to see how much better it runs with our rebuilt carburetor. Got this one. Actually, the gaskets came off pretty clean. Just got to clean this up. I'm going to hit it with the bench wheel, I think, and get the rest of this residue off. And then we're going to put some grease on our new gaskets, and we're going to put this thing in. Now, we're going to put a little bit of bearing grease on our gaskets. It's a trick that I learned from Thunderhead 289 over on YouTube. And this keeps your intake gaskets from falling apart if you ever have to take it apart again. Okay, now I have to bolt everything down, reconnect all of the hoses, then I'll check in with you when it's time to fire up the truck. Well, we got that back together as good as I care to do it for now. We got the battery. Hopefully it doesn't fall or do anything really stupid. Let's give this a start and see what happens. Let me go up there and take a gander, make sure nothing's about to catch fire. Yeah! Oh. It just keeps doing that. It's probably bad fuel. That's my guess. Well, I got good news and less good news. The good news is that I was able to return the ignition switch for this truck that I did not need. And that's because, as we discovered, there was an aftermarket alarm installed that had gone bad, and it had a relay that was wired with these puny little wires. And that's why this truck wasn't starting. It starts just fine, as you heard, with the old ignition switch. The less good news is that I have pulled the fuel pump and bought a replacement. And that's less good because once I install this thing, once I run fuel through it, I cannot return it. So I am gambling $60 on the hope that I do not have to drop the fuel tank in order to replace the fuel sending unit. But I probably need to drop the fuel tank and replace the fuel sending unit. Let's see if I just wasted $60 or if that was the cause of my problems all along. Well, as much as I like holding on to false hope, we got to keep moving this project forward. So I got the fuel pump in, everything is reconnected. I just got to throw the battery in here, and then we're going to try to start this up. It's at least doing something. We made progress. We made progress. I just realized that I forgot to replace the thermostat. So let's do that right now before we move forward with this project. I've got the good fail-safe thermostat, as well as a new gasket. This is not the cheap piece of crap. The fail-safes are good because when they fail open. That means that your vehicle is less likely to overheat when the fail-safe thermostat fails. Now, that doesn't protect it from getting clogged or, from any other problems that a motor could have, but it's nice to have a little bit of cheap insurance here. So this is really straightforward. This is probably the easiest thermostat I've ever seen. Just 2 bolts right here on the top, really easy to access. Pop this out. Probably going to lose a little bit of coolant, but not much because there's just not a lot of fall here between the radiator and the housing. Cleaned up the housing and also the mounting point in here. Used just a paper towel to soak up some of the coolant so that I could expose the ring area here. I got it cleaned good enough. We're going to put a little RTV on the housing. There was RTV on it before, so we're just going to put RTV on it again. And then we'll close this thing up, top off coolant, and we should be ready to go. Fucking damn it. You're pissing me off. I'm gonna go inside. I did get this thing to run with some tuning of the carburetor. It holds a high idle, and well, it still sounds kind of lousy, and I can really smell foul gasoline. And coming out the tailpipe, we're just dumping all kinds of water. So I really don't want to drop the tank. So I'm going to remain in denial about the fact that I need to drop the tank for one more day by draining the tank. So I ended up draining about 8 gallons from the tank. I have to take this down to hazmat. And I had to also buy 2 more red containers. But next step, we got to take this down to hazmat. We've also got to drop the fuel tank, which is the most fun thing in the world given how much spider activity there is under there. I'm going to have a great time. This is what the new part looks like. This is the part that came out of the truck. These two are not the same. No! Not even close. This one, in fact, has 2 wires. So, I guess I'm going to have to return the new part. And, yeah, that sucks. I hate when that happens. So I looked up a genuine Toyota fuel sending unit, and it is $190. I've spent enough money on this truck. I don't want to spend another $190 just to have the fuel gauge work. We're going to try to repair this. The first thing we want to do is check to see if the fuel floats. Yes, it does. So the fuel float works. So that means that we are not getting correct resistance reading inside this thing. So we're going to have to take it apart and clean it up. So before we get started here, I want to let you know that I've only done this in theory in my head, and I learned how to do this from YouTube University. So take that for what it's worth. we're going to crack open this casing. There's a tab here, and then it looks like once we open up this tab, we should be able to lift it out. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we got all kinds of crusty, crystally, crusty crap in here. This is the resistor, and it looks like all we need to do is clean this up. Let's... oh boy, it's super gross. So maybe I can get away with putting this in my chemical cleaner, the cleaning chemical. If I can take this arm off, I can just set this in there, and a lot of this crap might just fall right off. So we got this in the chem dip. Can't imagine it's very good for the rubber, so I'm trying to keep the wires out of it. But let's see how this goes. Yeah, literally just a couple of minutes, I think, is going to clean this up just enough. So let's wipe this down as good as we can, and then we will test it. Oh yeah, look at that. It's like, it's all coming off of the resistor. Oh yeah. Didn't even need sandpaper. I just hope it wasn't like so harsh that it dissolved things that it shouldn't have dissolved, but I don't know. Fuel is a solvent too, and fuel is pretty harsh on things, so I can't imagine I did any damage to it. Let me know if I'm wrong though. So I had kind of a stupid idea. I thought maybe I should plug this thing in and see if it works, because I think my multimeter is not working correctly. So it's easy enough to plug in. I just plugged it back in, and I positioned it here with the float on, you know, kind of propped up on against the hose there. And it's not at full, it's not at empty, it's somewhere in the spectrum. I got the battery hooked up, the truck is on. So let's take a look and see if that affects our gauge. Well, hot damn, look! It's right in the middle, a little bit less than center, which is about where it's positioned. And I think I fixed it. That means that I saved $190 getting an OEM Toyota fuel sending unit, and I don't have to screw around with a shitty aftermarket. So all I need now is a new cork gasket, and I fixed it for just a few dollars. And I might need to make the gasket if I can't find it. Got the battery hooked back up, and we're going to try to start this thing. I don't know if I got too big of a battery or not. Probably did, but that's a problem that we're going to solve later on. So everything is on. Oh yeah, the key was on. We have 3.5 gallons of fuel. We're ready to crank it over. There's some bad gas in the lines and in the carburetor probably, but we'll get through it. Poured a little gas straight into the carb. And that seems to be working, sort of. Once it's getting good gas, it actually sounded really good. There we go. And that pulled good gas from the tank. Oh, the throttle response is awesome. It runs. Let's see how the clutch feels. Oh, the clutch feels great. That shifter feels so good. All right. So it does need a little bit of a tune-up. Probably need to change out the spark plugs because of the bad fuel that was running through them. It sounds like it's kind of on 3 cylinders, like one of them isn't happy, but it runs. We got this thing from sitting in a field for 7 years to starting and running and sounding awesome. Clutch feels good. This thing is going to be a driver. There's just a few problems, which you could see right here. Let me shut the truck off and we'll talk about what's next. So now we've got this truck to start and run. Well, now it's time to make it drivable. And so far, I am in this project, not including these parts. I'm in the project about $1,000. I'll do a complete breakdown once we are able to road test this truck. But again, I am not trying to save every penny I can. I am spending what you would to get this truck running and driving as if it were my own truck, which means quality parts. This rebuild for this carburetor, Carlos at BFIC is one of the best there is in town. And he is so good that any amount of money that he asked for to do a carburetor is 100% worth it. A lot of the ignition stuff, my uncle had already done before he passed away. So this looks like all new ignition, which is fantastic because that's more things I don't have to do. And he used NGK. So he used good quality parts when he was doing this. Radiator seems good. We're not leaking. I've drained and filled it. And the coolant that came out of it was in good shape. On the inside of the truck, all I've done so far is to just fix the ignition harness. There was nothing to do. Beyond that, I did a first round of cleaning, and we have, several more rounds of cleaning to go. I've also got all new tires. Now, these tires are really like a classic look tire. So these are really cool, especially if you're looking to restore this truck or at least preserve it in its original capacity. The white wall, well, they're not white wall, they're white stripes. The blue hasn't completely come off of them yet, but we'll get there. The next thing that I want to do in the next video, we're going to tackle the core support and the mangled inner wheel well here. And that's going to be a lot of work. But we'll talk about that later, because once we get that done, there's no damage to the frame. So once we get that done, this truck will be ready to drive. So we really have to call that there. We took this truck from abandoned and forgotten in the desert to being a running and driving truck. Now, we're not driving it yet because we still want to do some of this body work to make it, to really just do a professional job on it. Not that I'm a professional. I just want to bring it back to the way it was before it was smacked into. And I want to put something good out there in the world. Now, I could definitely sell this truck as is and make money because these trucks are very valuable. But I want to find someone who's going to take what I've done and bring this truck to the next level. Because this truck is more than just about making some money for my cousin. This truck is about me contributing to a community and putting something out there in the world for someone else to appreciate and enjoy. So that's it for this video. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you don't like what you see, leave a comment anyway, because I want to hear from you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next project. Of course.